Ես ուսման խորհրդի նախագահուհին եմ Արևմտյան Հայդատի խորհրդի հանձնախումբի համար։
Ասեք մի փոքր այս նախաձեռնությունը որքանով կարևոր է եւ ինչ կարևոր հիմնական նպատակ ունի մեծարել այն ուսուցիչներին, ովքեր հայոց ցեղասպանություն են դասավանդում հանրային կրթության համակարգում։
Մեր ցեղասպանությունը ճանաչված չի։ Եվ եթե չճանաչվի, կորուստը շարունակվելու է։ Ուրեմն գիտենք, որ փոքրերից պիտի սկսենք, դպրոցներից պիտի սկսենք, որ երեխաները հասկանան, ինչպես կարելի է մեկ ժողովուրդ ամբողջովին ջնջվի աշխարհից։ Դա ուրեմն ուսուցիչների գործն է, եւ մենք 8 տարի է այս գործով զբաղված ենք եւ հպարտ ենք, որ ամեն տարի գտնում ենք ուսուցիչներ, որ տարբեր ձևերով մեր պատմությունը պատմում են, բայց նույնպես հիմա կարևոր է, որ մեր հիմակվա պատմությունը պատմվի, Արցախի վիճակը շատ կարևոր է, եւ ունենք ուսուցիչներ եւ ուսուցչուհիներ, որոնք հիմա սկսել են մեր Արցախի պատմությունը պատմել, եւ դա մեզ համար այս վարքյանից ամենից կարևոր գործն է։
Այսօր քանի ուսուցիչներ են մեծարվելու եւ ինչի համար։
Այսօր ունենք 10 հոգի եւ ամեն մեկը տարբեր բանով։
Կարող ասեք մեկ-երկու առանձնահատկություն, որ ունեցել են օրինակ այդ ուսուցիչները, որ գրավել է ձեր ուշադրությունը, որ արել են իրենց դասավանդման ընթացքում։
Այո, առաջինը, որ ունենք ուսուցիչ, որը հայ են եւ ֆրանսիական լեզվի դպրոցում են դաս տալիս, բայց ֆրանսերենով իրենց աշակերտներին պատմել են մեր ազգի պատմությունը։ Ուրեմն որտեղ որ գտնես այդ կարիքը, դու ձև պիտի ճարես, որ այդ գործը անես։ Եվ չնայած որ ինքը ֆրանսերեն dual language-ի ուսուցչուհի է, որոշել է, որ ֆրանսերենով հայոց պատմությունը տա եւ տալիս է եւ շատ լավ արդյունքներով։ Ունենք ուսուցիչներ Los Angeles Unified-ից, որը արդեն մեր ամենից մեծ եւ կարևոր խումբն է։ Այս տարի առաջին անգամ լինելով ամբողջ LA Unified-ը, որը ունի 2 միլիոն աշակերտություն, դպրոցները պիտի փակվեն ապրիլ 24-ին։ Դա շատ կարևոր որոշումն է, բայց երեխաները պիտի հասկանան, որ ինչու չեն երթալու դպրոց այդ օրը քեֆի օր չպիտի լինի, բայց հիշելու եւ մտածելու օր պիտի լինի։ Այս ուսուցիչներին, որ Los Angeles-ից այսօր հատկապես շնորհակալություն ենք հայտնում, նրանք են, որոնք այս գործով շատ խորը զբաղված են եւ օգնում են։ Ունենք ուսուցիչներ, որ գիրք են գրում երեխաների հետ մեր պատմության մասին։ Ես միշտ հասկացել եմ, եթե մեկին շնորհակալություն չհայտնես, գուցե կարծի, որ գործը հարկված գործ չէ։ Ուզում ենք իրենց լուր տանք, որ իրենց ամեն ջիկ ու ջանը մենք հարգում ենք եւ ուզում ենք, որ շարունակեն, բայց ավելի կարևոր հույս ունենք, որ ուրիշներին պիտի ցույց տան ինչպես շարունակեն այս գործը։ Մյուսը, որ շատ հետաքրքիր է, Քրիստինա Փասկուչի, Fox Los Angeles-ի reporter-ը, երբ որ իրան հարցրեցինք, որտեղից է որ կապվեցիր հայերի հետ կամ հայոց պատմության հետ, նա էլ ասեց, տարիներ առաջ իմ ֆրանսերենի ուսուցիչն էր, որ ինձ այսպես սովորացրեց ձեր պատմությունը, եւ այսօր իրեն պիտի պատվենք, որովհետեւ պիտի ինքը գնաց Ֆաքսի կողմից Հայաստան, որ մեր ինչ ասեմ, չարչարված սահմանների մասին ռիպորտաժ անի։
Ես աշխատում եմ ամերիկյան հանրային դպրոցում որպես փոխտնօրեն եւ իմ տարիների փորձառությունը ցույց է տալիս, որ ինչքան կարեւոր է, որ խոսանք եւ դասավանդենք եւ ծանոթացնենք օտար ազգերին, դպրոցում աշակերտների հետ, որ ավելի քաջալերեն խոսալը, քանի որ սովորեցնելով իրենց պատմության մասին, ավելի փոփոխություններ ենք տեսնում, թե ամերիկյան մասշտաբով, թե ընդհանուր առմամբ մարդկանց մտածելակերպը եւ հասկացողությունը փոխվում է ցեղասպանության մասին եւ ավելի առաջադիմում է, որպես պատմությունը նորից չկրկնվի։
Օտարների կողմից ցեղասպանության դասավանդումը որքանով հետաքրքրված են օտար ուսուցիչները մեր պատմությունը լավ իմանալու եւ նաեւ սերունդներին կրթելու համար։
շատ ուսուցչուհիներ հիմա փորձում են որ սովորեն եւ քրքրեն նոր նյութեր եւ ավելի լավ ծանոթանան պատմության հետ թե ինչեր է կատարվել եւ քաջալերում ենք իրենց օգնություն հայտնելով ANCA-ի օգնության ուսանողական կոմիտեի միջոցով, թե ինչպես կարող են իրանք նյութերը հավաքել եւ դասավանդել, որովհետեւ իրանք էլ հիմա շատ հասկանում են, որ կարեւորությունը աշխատելով եւ սովորացնելով աշակերտների հետ իսկ հենց այսօր մենք նշում ենք տարբեր օտար ուսուցչուհիներին, որոնք դասավանդել են ցեղասպանության մասին եւ ծանոթացրել են իրենց աշակերտներին, իմանալով շատ կարեւորություն տալով այս թեմայի համար։
My name is Violet DeLuna.
Which school you are teaching?
I teach history and world arts at Toll Middle School with Glendale Unified.
How many years?
Well, my total span of teaching has been 27 years.
Can you tell us when you start to teach about the Armenian Genocide and how important was for you as a teacher and non-Armenian to teach about this history to, not only like Armenian but also non-Armenian students?
Right. Well, I teach history, and so I have to value everyone's voice, and that's always been important for me. I like to value the voices that are in the history book and the voices that are left out of the history book. So the Armenian Genocide was a passionate topic for my students. And Glendale Unified acknowledged in 2013, I believe that was the year, when they were the first school district in the nation to make April 24th a non-school day to acknowledge the Armenian Genocide. So it was clearly important for my community, and I'm a teacher in Glendale, so I just felt it was my duty to embrace the topic. So I started to learn about it and research and created a week-long unit for my middle school students, and they really loved it. They were engaged, and it helped them to have passionate discussions with each other about the crimes of genocide and human rights and social justice. So that makes it rewarding for me. I love it when the students feel a personal connection, and that's what teaching history is all about. Learning about the past, developing your opinions so that you can have a valuable life and make sure that governments don't take your human rights away.
It's Anna Quintanilla.
Which school you are teaching?
I am teaching at Mountain View Elementary in Tahunga.
How many years you working as a teacher?
I have been working for 25 years, primarily in the primary grades.
For you as a teacher, how important was to teach about Armenian history, Armenian genocide history, not only to Armenian students but also non-Armenian? How important was personally this topic for you?
So personally, for me as an immigrant, I feel it's so important for us to recognize everybody's culture. And working with the Armenian population for 25 years, I feel like it is the right for my students, for me to actually talk about that, to educate all my kids, not only my Latino, Caucasian kids, but the Armenian students that are in my classes, that, we have so many things in common, so many, and that we should really, really work together and, continue progressing as one.
When you first started teaching, when was it? And how was the students' reaction when you told them about the history? And for you also, when you start to know more about the history?
So I started to search on Google, talking to a lot of my colleagues, because I have so many resources at my school, and just asking a lot of questions about different symbols, about the alphabet, because I do teach kindergarten, and just researching online and finding videos and reading more about it. And, I have predominantly Armenian students in my classroom. I would say about 75% of my students are Armenian and the rest are non. So when we started to learn more about, let's say, the alphabet, because that was one of the things that we learned last year, they were so enthusiastic about singing along because they had heard it at home, and then my non-Armenians just join in with the rest of the kids, and it was just such an empowering moment for me as an educator to see how it's a different language, but yet we can come together and really join in. So it really empowered me as an educator. It taught me more about the Armenian culture and why it is so important for me to continue working towards educating myself and also my students.
Talin Satamyan,
Որ դպրոցում եք դասավանդում։
Franklin Elementary School, Glendale Unified.
Կասեք ձեզ համար որպես հայ հայոց ցեղասպանության դասավանդումը հայ եւ օտար ուսանողներին որքան կարեւոր է։
Շատ կարևոր են։ Ես կոնկրետ ասենք հայկական հայ ցեղասպանության մասին չեմ դասավանդել, երրորդ դասարանի ուսուցչուհի եմ եւ ֆրանսերեն ծրագիրի մեջ եմ աշխատում, dual immersion, որտեղ երեխաները բացառապես ֆրանսերենով են հաղորդվում։ Ուրեմն ես ծևեր եմ գտնում հայկականը մտցնել ծրագրի մեջ միջոցառումներու միջոցով եւ նույնիսկ ասենք մանավանդ վերջերս Արցախյան պատմությունը եւ հակամարտությունը ամբես կմտցնեմ, որ երեխաներին համար ճիշտ ցևով երեխաներին ճիշտ ցևով մատուցվի։ Օրինակ անցյալ դարի Թամզարա սորվեցուցի իմ երեխաներին, իմ աշակերտներին եւ Թամզարայի մեջ միտքը գա, որ պետք է ոտքը կեդին զարնելով պիտի չարը խապանես, այդ միտքը իրենց հաղորդեցի, որ մենք պես պիտի բարենք, որ աշխարհում չարը խապանենք։ Եվ դրա մեջ իհարկե մտնում է չարը խապանել Արցախում, բայց միշտ միասնական ցևով եմ անում այդ բոլորը։
Ինչքանով կարևոր է հայոց պատմության դասավանդումը հանրային կրթության համակարգում եւ այսօր նաեւ այս օտար ուսանողներին, ուսուցիչներին, որ մեծարում են պատմությունը դասավանդելու համար։
Կարևոր է, որ եթե մենք ուզում ենք խաղաղ աշխարհ, ուզում ենք բռնություն չլինի, ցեղասպանություններ չլինեն, մենք անպայման պետք է դասավանդենք այն դեպքերը, որոնք արդեն դեղի են ունեցել եւ այդ դեպքերից մենք սովորենք ինչպես պետք է վարվենք այսօր նույնիսկ այստեղ, որովհետեւ որևէ դեղ այդ կարգի բան կարող է լինել, այնպես չէ որ դա բացառիկ ինչ որ դեպքեր դժբախտաբար միշտ պատրաստ պիտի լինենք երեխաներին հանդուրժողականություն սովորեցնել եւ հարգել միմյանց մշակույթները։
Խաչիկ Մուրադյան, կարող եք Դոկտոր Մուրադյան կամ Խաչիկ ոնց որ գուզեք։
Այսօրվա միջոցառման կարևորությունը ձեզ այսօր մեծարվել մարդիկ, ովքեր հայոց ցեղասպանության պատմությունը իրենց աշխատանքային գործունեության ընթացքում դասավանդել են, կրթել են սերունդներ, այն նաև ձեր փորձառությունից ելնելով, որ դուք եւս մեծ աշխատանքներ եք իրականացրել, ինչքան կարևոր է օտարների շրջանում մեր պատմությունը ներկայացնելը։
Բնականաբար մեր պատմությունը ներկայացնելը եւ մեր շրջանակներում եւ օդար շրջանակների մեջ մեծ կարևորություն ունի ոչ միայն անցյալի առումով, այլ նաեւ մեր այսօրվան եւ ապագայի իմաստով։ Այսօր մենք իբրև ժողովուրդ հավանաբար կդիմակրավենք մեր պատմության հայկական ցեղասպանության իվեր ամենայն դժվարին օրերը։ Եվ այսպիսի ժամանակաշրջանի նախ պատմության ծանոթ լալը եւ գիտակցելը թե անցյալին ինչպիսի դժվարություններ անցելով մենք այսօր այստեղ ասած ենք գտնա նաեւ մեր ժողովրդի համար, մեր շրջանակի համար արիթ հանդիսանալ, խթան հանդիսանալ, որ մտածենք թե եթե 100 տարի առաջ կարելի էր վերականգնել, վերակառուցել եւ ոտքի կանգնել, այսօր նույնպես այդ ներկայացնում է։ Եվ կգործեմ այդիկա մեզի համար կարևոր իմաստունի նշանակություն ունի։ Իսկ անգեանտին միջազգային առումով հայկական ցեղասպանության մասին դասավանդելը նոր սերունդին ուսանողների դպրոցի մեջ համասարանների մեջ կարևոր է եւ մեր այսօրվան հարցերը արձանագրելու ադեն հանրության ուշադրությունը իրենց վրա գետնացած բահելու առումով նկատի առնելով եւ ժողովուրդ ամերիկայի բնակչությունը օրինակի համար եւ ցանոթ է մեր պայմաններուն, մեր պատմության գտնա նաեւ ավելի մոդern ուզել հետևել եւ օգտակար դառնալ, որպես այսօր մեր դիմակայված դժվարություններուն մեջ նաև լա մեր գողքին, այնպես ինչպես ասկի 100 տարի առաջ Ամերիկայի ժողովուրդը փորձած է կանգնել հայության գողքին։
Մի փոքր կներկայացնեք որքանով կարևոր է այսօրվա ձեռնարկացած եւ նաեւ ամերիկյան գիտական կրթական համակարգում հայ ժողովրդի պատմության ու հայոց ցեղասպանության դասավանդումը, նաեւ ձեր փորձառությունից ելնելով։
Անշուշտ հիմնական է, որովհետեւ եթե քու պատմությանը ծանոթ չես, դեռ չես ասնի։ Սպյուրքեներս ուրիշ կարևորություն մգավ, ադե որ պատմությունը տասավանդելով նաև ինքնությունըդ գբաշխանես, նոր սերունդներուն գրնաս փոխանցել։ Հետևաբար աս ցերնարգը եւ գազագերությունը, որ աս ցերնարգը գնե, կարևոր տեղակատարություն է։
Ruben, sit down. Anani, sit down. I'm just going to call people out. It's a classroom, right? Sarki, sit down. Abus. So good afternoon. My name is Talin Arsenian, and I am the proud chair of the ANCA Western Region Armenian Genocide Education Awards Luncheon. And on behalf of the entire ANCA Western Region Committee, I would like to welcome you all to our special program today. Let me first share a story. So behind this curtain right here is a huge TV screen. And as soon as 2 weeks ago, it was working. So last night we were here trying to do a run of our program, and it was not working. And so we tried and we tried for hours. And I did what any educator would do. I called my teacher friends. And I called them this morning. And sure enough, 2 folks showed up with a screen and an LCD. So thank you, Greta Sukazian and Emily Rogers, Glendale High School and Hoover High School. So thanks to them, we are going to be able to move forward with our program with the video presentation. So we begin today's event with the United States National Anthem and the Republic of Armenia's National Anthem, which will both be sung by Granada Hills Charter School 6th grade student, Tatevik Apoyan. Tatevik, can you please join us here on the stage?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave a proof through the night that our flag was still
Thank you for sharing your beautiful voice with us. I would now like to invite ANCA Western Region Education Committee Chair, Alice Petrosian, to the stage.
Welcome everybody, and thank you very much. Look at the support in this room. We said sold out. We didn't understand how really beautiful a sellout this would be. Today, we cannot continue with our program without remembering that March 25th, 2023, our brothers and sisters in Artsakh are blockaded from the rest of the world. We are still seeing ethnic cleansing and potential genocide perpetrated upon the Armenians. 8 years ago, when we began this problem, we thought we would worry about the rest of the world, never imagining that it would be, again, Armenians in this situation. In 2020, Aliyev waged an unnecessary war for territory that was not his, and unfortunately succeeded. Armenia lost over 4,000 of its soldiers, a generation of brilliant young men, most of them between the ages of 18 and 22, with more than 1,000 living with unimaginable injuries, including chemical warfare wounds. Other dictators watched. No one stopped Aliyev. No punishment for these atrocities. So today we have the Ukraine. Lessons we should have learned: genocide unpunished is repeated globally. Would you all please stand for a moment? This in reverence and commitment to those young men who gave their lives, including the young soldier that was just killed this week. May their memories help us to fight even harder for peace and prosperity. Thank you. You've just heard from an Emmy-award, highly respected, accomplished journalist. Araksya Karapetyan, as an anchor for KCAL-LA Fox TV, has become a familiar and trusted face for Southern California. People tune in just to hear her voice. Araksya has an impressive background in journalism. Born in Armenia, raised in the United States, she holds degrees in broadcast journalism from Syracuse University, where she honed her skills in writing, reporting, anchoring. Since then, she has worked as a reporter, anchor, and now she is an Emmy-award winner. Her performance, her professionalism, integrity, and passion for storytelling made her one of the most respected journalists in the industry. Araksya was honored by ANCAWR 2019 Gala with the Excellence in Media Award. She is most importantly loved and cherished by her Armenian community for her courage and tenacity in speaking up when our people need it most, and you just heard the Obama example. She is my role model and my shiro. When I grow up, I want to be just like her. Oh wait, I have grown up and missed that mark, but I can love and respect her as a grandmother, knowing she is the role model for all our grandchildren.
Now, to lead and continue today's program, I would like to welcome our special guest, who we are honored to have with us this afternoon, Emmy Award-winning Fox 11 News anchor, Araksya Karapetyan, as this year's Master of Ceremonies.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Nice to be with all of you. Tallene, thank you for the kind words, all of our distinguished guests. An honor to be here to celebrate these outstanding individuals who are really doing so much for our community, and on a deeper level, bringing so much meaning to the loss of the 1.5 million Armenian souls back during the Armenian Genocide. It gives us great pause to remember our past, to continue on with our present, and of course, to look forward to the future. But we must acknowledge the past in order to move forward with the future. And it is through that we are able to give meaning to their memory, to their legacy, and to know how important it is to do what we do in our own daily lives, because our ancestors are such a big part of who we are. And by teaching the importance to these students, we can continue to send out that message. It's really about humanity. At the end of the day, it's about teaching the younger generation what it means when there is hate in your heart, what it means when you dehumanize someone, what it means when you don't respect your neighbor. So these are deep, important messages, and these are the individuals in this room who are helping carry on that very message for the younger generation. So I've always had a great appreciation for educators. The job they do is just phenomenal. But until I became a parent, I didn't realize even more so how much my respect goes out to these incredible teachers. And then I think we can all relate with the fact that we had COVID, we had online learning, and that was a challenge, right? The patience these teachers have, it's just incredible. It takes a special kind of an individual, one with that patience, one with that curiosity, with that hunger, with that passion, to want to teach the younger generation to open their eyes or see from a different perspective they otherwise would never have. These are the people who make our society stronger, enrich our everyday lives. And so for that, we are so thankful for the people in this room and for just our past experiences. In fact, I was thinking, we've all had people in our lives, maybe we were lucky enough not to just have one teacher, but many teachers who made a difference in our lives. So for me, it was Mr. Urban in 3rd grade, and I grew up in the South Bay in Palos Verdes, so I went to an American school, but Mr. Urban had this, it wasn't for the Jolly Ranchers, he did have a giant jar of Jolly Ranchers, and we were able to go and take one when we did something worthy of a Jolly Rancher. And as a child, I don't know why that meant so much, right? You could have just had your parents buy you a bag. But it meant so much when you were told you could get up and you could go across the room and take one of those Jolly Ranchers. To this day, when I see that candy, I think of him, and he has since passed. But he was the type of person that made us all feel important and gave us confidence and made us feel respected. And I think that is where the core of my confidence actually comes from and grew from 3rd grade, that one person. So if we think for a moment, there has been at least one person in each of our lives who's been able to do something like that. So today we're honoring and recognizing incredible individuals who've gone beyond what is necessary to talk about a really important part of history that sadly still many people may not know much about. And this is, this is history that deserves to be told. It's an injustice to not tell not just history but correct history. Words matter greatly. So I certainly grew up at a time when Armenian Genocide was never in my textbooks. And I was thinking about this, I don't think that was ever a subject matter which was discussed in, obviously, elementary school, high school, or even college. And the only reason I know about it is because I happen to be Armenian. So the closest thing I've ever come to in grade school to anything Armenian was actually just seeing the word Armenia. And I remember highlighting it and underlining it and circling it and getting so excited to just have the name of where I come from in a book. And I know many people in this room relate to that feeling because we might still do it today. I include myself in that category. But the fact that you felt all of a sudden validated and respected and acknowledged, like you mattered, meant so much. Now, when I think about the fact that the depth of that, that was just a feeling that sometimes it feels silly. I felt that way, but there's so much depth in that because society was ignoring an important part of history, and it's shocking, almost disappointing. It's baffling. It's also insulting. And I really hope that my children never have to feel that way. So certainly things are changing, and that's what matters. And the people in this room are part of that change. So thank you to all of you. Leads me to this. When I think about the people in my life who learned about Armenian genocide or Armenian culture, Armenian traditions, it happened to be people who were in my life, my friends growing up, right? So because of me, they were able to be introduced to this part of history. Later on in my life and my career, whether it was Idaho Falls or Portland, Oregon, there are people now who actually know a part of history they had never known. And so there's something beautiful in the sense that we all individually, you don't have to be a teacher or an educator, can go around the world and make a difference, whether it's sharing the history of our people or the music or the art or the food. We're able to teach a community about who we are. And I remember the first time I spoke about the Armenian Genocide on Fox 11, it was for the 100th anniversary. We used to do a segment called Big Deal or No Big Deal, and it was a topic would come up and we would discuss, sit there and discuss if we personally felt it was a big deal or no big deal. And so the topic was President Obama at the time did not acknowledge the genocide. So the year had come and gone, and once again he had not acknowledged it. And I remember being very hurt that day. I mean, I know politics are politics, but I remember being very hurt that morning. And Steve Edwards, I remember, turned to me, he's like, "Are you going to be able to handle this segment, or are you too emotional?" I said, "No, I can do it." And I did it, and I said things that I don't even know, just came out of my mouth. It all made sense, thankfully. When I looked back, I was able to articulate exactly what I was feeling. Somehow I had the strength to do it, but I remember being very upset by it. But what was amazing was all of these viewers, and when I say non-Armenian viewers, it meant so much more to me to have those people thank me for talking about something like that and for telling them about something like that. The emails and the phone calls and messages, they were saying, wow, how did I not know about this? At that moment, I realized what I was saying earlier, that we each have a duty, and that is our duty, to speak the truth and to go around and share our story. And that is something that is not lost on me, and I'm very grateful to be in a position where I'm able to do that. And there are many people here who are able to do that in whatever capacity it may be. No matter who you are, you can make a difference, and that's really the takeaway here. And so tonight, or not tonight, usually it's an evening event, this afternoon, we are going to give credit to everyone who is working toward that goal. So we're going to introduce some of the dignitaries and elected officials who have joined us to celebrate. I will say all of the names. If you can kindly hold your applause until the end. If you are here, you're more than, we're happy to have you stand if you wish, or we can just move on from there. So we will begin with Burbank City Mayor Constantine Anthony. It's like live TV. You didn't follow my instructions. Let's try. I know. He deserves it. But let's hold our applause until the end, please. All right. Burbank Unified School District Board Clerk, Dr. Armand Agakanyan. Maybe it's my fault. I should pause. You know why I paused? I feel like I mispronounced your last name. Agakanyan. I got it. All right. These are Armenian last names. Burbank Teacher Association President Diana Abasta. Glendale Mayor Artie Kasakian. Glendale City Council Member Dan Brotman. Glendale City Council Member Ellen Asaturian. Glendale Clerk, City Clerk, Dr. Susie Abajian. We have Glendale City Manager Rubik Ulanyan. Glendale Community College Board Member Dr. Sevan Benelian. Glendale Community College Board Clerk Desiree Portillo Rabinov. Glendale Community College Board Member Dr. Armenian Hagopian, Glendale Community College Board Member Yvette Vartanian Davis, Glendale Community College Superintendent and President Dr. Ryan Corner. We have Glendale Unified School District Board Vice President Jennifer Freeman, Glendale Teachers Association Vice President Emily Rogers, Los Angeles Community College Superintendent Dr. Francisco Rodriguez, Los Angeles City Council Member Hugo Soto Martinez, Los Angeles Unified School District School Board Vice President Scott Shermolson, Los Angeles Unified School District School Board Member Rocio Rivas' Policy Director Elena Zeltzer, and Pasadena City Vice Mayor Felicia Williams. Artie Chakyan from the Office of State, Senator Anthony Portantino, and David Dry and Helen Chavez from the Office of Los Angeles County Supervisor, Catherine Barker. Okay, we can, now a big round of applause. Oh, just kidding, one more. Dr. Lisa Nashuya and Dr. Nune, hold on, Mikaelian, did I get that? From the Office of Los Angeles County Supervisor Hilda Solis. All right, so we also have those who will be honored. The following officials have prepared some certificates for the honorees, and so we have Assemblymember Laura Friedman, Supervisor Barger, Senator Portantino, City of Glendale Mayor Artie Kasakian, Los Angeles City Council Member Paul Krikorian. We have Los Angeles Unified School District Scott Shemerlson. It's a tough one. And with that, I would like to invite the representative of the ANCA Western Region Board of Directors Liaison to the ANCA Western Region Education Committee, Ms. Anahid Oshagyan, to give today's welcome address, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you so much, Araksya. You're amazing. What a hard act to follow. Before I begin, I just wanted to announce that we do have a white BMW, license plate number 64GL387, that is blocking and needs to be moved. So if you are the owner of the white BMW, please move the vehicle. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, esteemed honorees, distinguished guests, friends, and family. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the ANCA Western Region, I extend a heartfelt welcome to you all. We are delighted to have you join us to recognize and honor outstanding public school educators Anna Quintanilla, Violet De Luna, Celeste Lau, Manuel Lopez, Talarke Ocean, Anita Kazarian, Talin Satamian, as well as standout scholars and pillars of higher education, Dr. Stepan Asturian and Dr. Khachik Muradian. These outstanding educators, please, they deserve it. These outstanding educators have not just taught about the significance of the genocide and its aftermath. They have inspired and empowered generations of students to take action not just for the Armenian genocide, but to take action and prevent all injustices. We also have a journalist, Christina Pascucci, joining the ranks of honorees for exhibiting exemplary courage while reporting from the front lines of war. Some wonder why we continue to hold this event and our steadfast advocacy for recognition of the genocide during one of the most challenging and critical times in the history of our people. Genocide fatigue is a phrase I came across while reading a newly published novel by a young Armenian woman from the Bay Area. The phrase struck me. Some are tired. Some want to move on. Some scoff at our continued boycott or struggle. The Biden administration recognized the genocide a couple of years ago, they say, What's the point of continuing this fight? To others, such as myself, it's simple. The genocide and attempted annihilation of our people continues. There was the devastating war of 2020, and now the blockade waged by Azerbaijan continues to hold hostage, cut off from the rest of the world 120,000 indigenous Armenians, deprived of food, medical supplies, or access to health care and other necessities, including disruption of electricity and gas supply during severe winter conditions. The blockade against the people of Artsakh, our people, Armenians, has been ongoing since December 12th, 3 months, 1 week, and 4 days now. We can't afford to harbor genocide fatigue. Almost every day, we hear about the aggression and breaches of the Azeri military into the sovereign territories of the republics of Armenia and Artsakh. Psychological and physical torture are constant in the lives of the Armenian people. This is the same genocidal campaign begun over a century ago, which continues to be waged with impunity by the descendants of the same perpetrators of the genocide of 1915. The existential threat of our people is imminent. We cannot and will not stop our advocacy. We must and we will soldier on. We soldier on by continuing to educate the world and by recognizing outstanding educators who go above the call of duty to ensure this dark chapter of this history is taught and not forgotten, to ensure that justice prevails. For those who are unfamiliar with the Armenian National Committee of ANCA Western Region, allow me to provide a snippet about our organization. It is the largest and most influential Armenian American grassroots advocacy organization in the Western United States. With a network of offices, chapters, and supporters west of the Mississippi and affiliated organizations around the country, the ANCA Western Region advances concerns in the Armenian American community on a broad range of issues. Nearly a decade ago, we created the Education Committee with the goal of educating students, teachers, school districts, and administrators about the Armenian Genocide. Thanks to the dedicated members of the committee, students and teachers now have a plethora of resources to learn about our history, about our current struggles in Artsakh. The incomparable Alice Petrosian, whom we've already met, a tireless lifelong educator and chairwoman of the Education Committee, will tell you more about the work of the committee shortly. In addition to establishing the Education Committee, we operate through 28 chapters throughout the western half of the United States to ensure proper recognition in all public sectors of the Armenian Genocide and ongoing genocidal campaign, and advocate for just resolution of these still unpunished crimes against not just us, but against humanity. We are few, but we are mighty. We work around the clock to counter Azeri aggression and Turkey's stubborn denial of facts and continued attempts to erase Armenia off the map and fabricate history. Some of our notable accomplishments: 2 years ago, after years of hard work, we were instrumental in having the Biden administration finally recognize the Armenian Genocide. Through our advocacy efforts, 49 of the 50 United States and the US Congress with overwhelming majority have recognized the Armenian Genocide. Working with local and state educators, genocide is now included in the curriculum framework in California. We organize advocacy days to raise awareness about the Armenian Genocide in state capitals in our region. We continue to support the Armenian American Museum. Last weekend we had the amazing gala that's currently under construction to spread the word about our rich culture and history. As we do every year, on Monday, April 24th this year, we will once again march for justice to the Turkish consulate on Wilshire in Los Angeles, alongside an extensive coalition of partners. And recently, joining forces with the Armenian Action Network, we are currently working diligently to ensure we receive an Armenian checkbox on the US Census, which will allow Armenians to be counted and to receive significant resources as a result. Coming to today, we salute and thank our honorees for standing with us on the side of justice through education. Together we will not waver nor cave into the fatigue in our pursuit for justice. Last but not least, a huge shout out to the remarkable Education Committee and Sleepless Awards Subcommittee and staff for your dedication and tireless work in making this beautiful program possible. Thank you all for your attention, and please enjoy the rest of the wonderful program we have.
As you continue to enjoy your lunch, I would like to bring your attention to this screen behind me. There is going to be a presentation about the GENA Teacher Fellowship Program. This is an opportunity for public school educators to provide the Genocide Education Project. It's about a 7-minute video.
Do you remember if you learned about the Armenian Genocide in high school?
No.
No. You don't remember, or you didn't learn
No,
about
I don't think it wasn't covered.
Armenian Genocide?
The what? The Armenian Genocide. Have you heard about the Armenian Genocide?
Like in the South Africa?
No, Armenian Genocide.
No.
No, I never heard of it before.
Answers shouldn't come as a surprise to us. Generally, across the United States today, the Armenian Genocide still is not being taught in a standardized way. The government of Turkey's very well-funded campaign of denial has suppressed this education in the United States for decades. A general lack of exposure to teachers about the available resources that exist for them. All of these factors inspired the establishment of the Genocide Education Project, or GENED.
This has been a culmination of a few years worth of work.
Thank you very much for taking the time out. I know how hard it is.
Teachers across the United States incorporate the lessons of human rights and genocide with a particular focus on the Armenian Genocide and its connections to other genocides of modern history into their classroom curriculum.
We look at this one moment.
If you don't know your history,
what do we see?
You can't contradict that line.
Finds the Zaytun villagers in a Syrian refugee camp.
I like the geographic stuff there, and it's so easy to feed that into other rise and falls of empires.
So we, for years, dreamed of the idea of bringing U.S. teachers to Armenia to give them a longer, more in-depth teacher training. We were able to do that in July 2022. 15 teachers from 14 different U.S. states.
I think I was really shocked to discover that we were the first inaugural group to be brought here for this kind of program ever. That's something. The work that's ahead of us as educators.
We partnered with the Armenian Genocide Museum and Institute.
It is important that the training was taking place at AGMI because the people, every moment they can visit the museum and being in contact with team members of the organization apart from AGMI, they can ask questions and receive answers. Also, the Armenian point of view is very important.
Getting a lot of information in our morning sessions was incredible.
During the course of our experience here, we've been given so many materials, lectures from experts in the field, primary sources, and lesson plans and things that we could implement. And I feel that it is of the highest quality. I feel very comfortable that the material we're given is vetted.
This 10 days helped me contextualize this history better. I loved all the speakers. Everybody had something different to bring in. I enjoyed some of the history. I love the museum. The exhibitions here are just so incredible.
And I think had I not come on this program and not been here this week, I wouldn't have thought about denial as a self-contained unit for the course. But especially being here, I'm realizing how important it is for students to think about denial around genocide.
I find myself gravitating towards and spending important time on the denial stage. It as a stage is what allows the perpetuation of further genocides. Students need that component. Students need to hear that there are efforts being made to deny you the understanding of what truly happened.
Actually, what is so wonderful about this whole agenda is the mixture.
the academic lecture, being in the museum and walking right through it as we're talking about things, but then the field trips. There is no better way to learn a culture than to actually be out in the culture.
You would think that studying about a genocide for 8 or 10 days would be really depressing, but it was a great group of people. We had excellent outings, amazing food, and great experiences that I will cherish forever.
I've done programs like this before, but what really made this program unique was the personal stories that you all brought in. We felt like you were sort of opening up your cultures and your families and allowing us into them, and that really meant a lot to us.
We can see that this culture is still alive today, and that there's an ongoing effort to preserve it.
Particularly impactful was visiting the memorial itself. But to be able to walk to the memorial with the memorial in the distance and see this eternal flame and be able to lay a flower was a particularly moving experience.
Seeing the landscape, the topography, the hills, understanding how that maybe even impacts the outcome of battles during World War I, seeing the gravestones from the most recent war in 2020, meeting the people one-on-one and being in the room with them, not through a Zoom lens. It doesn't filter anything. It exposes the rawness of the history and the way in which the legacy of that history permeates the air in Armenia. You can't get that in California.
Phase of the program in Armenia, then return to their home regions and are responsible for creating a professional development training for other educators in their regions. And in this way, we can really expand the number of teachers teaching about the Armenian Genocide and the number of students receiving this education.
It's a question of what is the quality that we want our American teachers to have. And if we really want to make a dent in teaching the Armenian Genocide, and if you want this quality, I think this is the only way that you can do this.
It is time to go. That was a taste you had of what this program is all about, and it's so wonderful to hear the experiences all of these different people from all kinds of backgrounds were able to take away from going there to Armenia and actually listening and experiencing from the very land and being, outside of the classroom, outside of the textbook. There's something to be said when you're actually there in person. To continue on with our program, I'd like to invite up the Education Committee members. We have Lucy Martirosyan, Medina Kalognamos, and Zari Kagopian to share a few special recognitions at this time.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lucy Martirosyan. I hope you've had a chance to visit the authors meet and greet that we have set up in the back of the hall. We have with us today 2 new publications: the award-winning memoir Forbidden Homeland, Story of a Diaspora by our very own committee member Katya Karagosyan, and the beautiful coffee table book Armenia the Lone Stone by author and photographer David Karamian. Additionally, Dr. Kay Muradian, seasoned author of My Mother's Voice, is here donating the sales of her book to the ANCA. Thank you to all our authors who continue to tell our stories in print. Now we would like to take the time to recognize and share our thanks for the special contributions made by our event sponsors. Platinum level, we have Dr. and Mrs. Vigen and Nora Hovsepian, ANCA's Western Board Chair. Gold level, we have ANCA Western Region Tri-City Chapter, CSUN Armenian Studies Program, Glendale Teachers Association, Burbank Teachers Association, Mr. and Mrs. Levon and Silva Kirakosyan, Attorneys at Law, Mr. and Mrs. Vahik and Alice Petrosian. For silver level, we have Lucina Martirosyan, in loving memory of her father, Ashot Martirosyan. Anahit Oshagan, ANCA Western Region Board Member. Hermine Pakanyans, ANCA Western Region Board Treasurer. Bronze level, we have Bartan Achabalyan, Supervisor Catherine Berger, Mr. and Mrs. Aram and Laura Kabutian, Harut Pronosian, Dr. K. Muradian, Dr. Levon Marashnian, and Supervisor Hilda Solis. Table patrons, we have Sako Berberian, ANCA Western Region Board Secretary, Western Prelacy Board of Regents, and we would like to thank you all for your contributions to our event today, for your continued support for educational activities in our community. Without your support, events like this wouldn't take place. Thank you so much, everyone.
The Education Committee has always been deeply engaged in work that is groundbreaking and necessary. We partnered with Genocide Education Project, USC Shoah Foundation, and Facing History and ourselves to make certain we provided numerous options for educators. We have attended conferences held by the California School Board Association, the California Teachers Association, and the National Education Association to share our history and ask them for resolutions on the recognition of the Armenian Genocide. We led the work in having, I don't have my glasses, in having resolutions passed in higher education institutions and school districts, not only to recognize the Armenian Genocide, but to provide professional development for their educators and staff. We also led the work on creating age-appropriate teaching curriculum for elementary schools. We're constantly and continuously providing professional development programs about our past and present history and culture. Now we're moving forward to lead the most critical program in partnership with Rooted and Rerouted to document the Baku pogroms in a formal manner. It is critical to further have evidence that the genocide has never stopped and continues today. We're passionate about this project, and today your support means we can grow this project and help provide our students with first-person accounts of the Baku tragedies. While evil dictators revise history, we will document and preserve history. We were the first to develop lesson plans for the Artsakh War and continue to encourage the teaching of our Artsakh history. Yet another important move to the great dismay of our enemies. This April 24th, over 500,000 students and 100,000 staff will not be in schools across LAUSD because of the work of this committee and the moral fortitude of the LAUSD board. The resolutions calling for a non-student day passed by board members unanimously 2 years ago. Now, we're working with LAUSD leaders to teach every student why it is that they are commemorating April 24th. This is just the tip of the iceberg of the work that needs to be done. Join us, support us, and we can make a difference from here for Artsakh and Armenia. No more genocides for humanity's sake. Thank you.
I'm Medea Kalatamos, and it's so nice to see all of you. Thank you for being here, thank you for your support, and I hope that you enjoy our lunch. We've done the best that we can to make this a very fruitful and productive day for you as you listen to us. Thank you. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to welcome our past honorees who have joined us today. We thank them for their dedication and contribution to our community and for their continuous support. Please stand when I call your name and remain standing and please hold your applause until I'm finished with all the names. The 2017 honoree, Ms. Huri Manjikian. Ms. Huri Manjikian is a science teacher at Toll Middle School. Do I see you standing, Huri? Ms. Talin Arsenian, our own Ms. Talin Arsenian, 2018. She's a math teacher at Glendale High. Yes. Dr. K. Muradian, 2018. Muradian is a professor emerita from Los Angeles Community College. She's the author of several books. Dr. Levon Marashian. I saw him. Very soon. Please stand, yes. Dr. Marashian is a professor of ethics, ethnic studies, political science, Middle East, Russian, and U.S. history at GCC. Ms. Armina Alexan, 2022. Is she here? Yes, okay. Please stand. She's the principal of Jefferson Elementary School in Glendale. Ms. Patrick Davarhanian, 2022. Mr. Davarhanian is a social studies, ethnic studies teacher at Clark Magnet School. Here. Okay. And Dr. Rubina Perumian, 2019. Dr. Perumian is a research associate at UCLA, a lecturer and author of several books. Please stand, Ms. Perumian, Dr. Perumian. Thank you. Okay, now let's have a round of applause for all of our honorees in the past. Thank you again for all you do for our students and for continuous support and for everything that you continue to do for our students. Thank you.
And to introduce today's honorary award certificates, I would like to invite to the podium Education Committee members Katya Karagosyan and Arpi Krikorian.
Good afternoon, everyone. All honorees will receive a certificate which will be presented by Nora Hovsepian, ANCA Western Region Chair, and Alice Petrosyan, ANCA Western Region Education Committee Chair. Each certificate features an image of one significant Armenian intellectual who was arrested and or killed as a result of the events of April 24th, 1915. As a teacher, author and scholar, Ms. Zabel Yesayan was committed to contemporary social issues of the time. After she escaped arrest, she went on to lead relief efforts for refugees and orphans affected by the atrocities that continued throughout the Ottoman Empire. She is survived by many of her famous works, including Among the Ruins, which was her report on the 1909 Adana massacre. Author and poet Taniel Varujan was known for his passion, elegance, and patriotism demonstrated in his works. Armenian village life inspired many of his poems. Many of his works were published after his death. Taniel Varujan was one of the many writers martyred in 1915. Krikor Zohrab was an influential Armenian community lawyer, author, and politician. He was a great defender of Armenians in the Ottoman Empire. He was arrested and executed in the Armenian Genocide. Sia Manto was another renowned Armenian author, poet, and national figure. He was a highly educated man who traveled to other countries for much of his life. He was also arrested and killed during the Armenian Genocide. Gomidas Vartabed was an Armenian priest, composer, choir master, and musicologist. He is known for traveling to predominantly Armenian-populated areas, documenting unwritten songs passed down through oral tradition. He was arrested on April 24, 1915, but his life was spared. However, he felt mentally ill, impacted by the vulgar atrocities he witnessed being committed onto the Armenian people. He is a giant, forever remembered through his musical contributions to Armenian culture. The portraits of each of these leaders were hand-drawn by artist Richard Kevorkian. In addition, our honorees will also be receiving books and DVDs that were generously donated by supporters, partners, and friends of the Armenian community. You may find a list of these gifts in your program. We thank all donors of these wonderful contributions. Thank you.
Our honorees will receive 4 types of awards. Our first award is the Armenian Genocide Education Award, which is presented to 4 public school educators who continuously advocate for Armenian genocide recognition and integration into the school curriculum. Our second award is the Zaruhi Sera Chichjan Armenian Heritage Award, which will be given to 3 public school educators who are of Armenian descent and who follow the example of Ms. Zaruhi Sera Chichjan, who dedicated her public school career in the Los Angeles Unified School District, teaching students about Armenian culture, identity, and history. Our third award is the Richard G. Hovannisyan Armenian Genocide Higher Education Award, which will be given to 1 outstanding college professor who is dedicated to highlighting the history of the Armenian Genocide and its significance. Our fourth and newest award is the Ambassador Henry Morgenthau Senior Courage Award, which is given to an individual who has demonstrated outstanding courage in the face of adversity, bringing forth stories of crimes against humanity as a stand for awareness and justice. Without further ado, I would like to re-invite our Master of Ceremonies to begin the first round of today's honoree presentations.
All right, to join me in presenting these honorees with the awards, please come up on stage. ANCA Western Region Education Committee Chair Alice Petrosian and ANCA Western Region Board Chair Nora Hovsepian. Receiving the first Armenian Genocide Education Award is Violet DeLuna, 7th grade history and world arts teacher at Eleanor J. Toll Middle School. Violet is a California native who comes from a family of visual arts and classical music. She started her teaching career 27 years ago, teaching English in South Korea for 1 year. She returned to the United States to teach in Los Angeles School District and then the Glendale Unified School District. Violet loves integrating the arts into her curriculum because it inspires students to enjoy discussing history as well as global issues. And while teaching in Glendale, she did recognize that her students wanted to learn more about the Armenian Genocide. So she worked to create a weeks-long genocide unit, which she taught to her 7th and 8th grade students. And these lessons are rewarding to her, she says, because they allow her students to have informed discussions about historical events and they feel passionate about. So in addition, they also get to learn that they are not alone and there are many different cultural groups who have also experienced injustices around the world. And this allows those students to find the strength in their united voices so they can express their views about social justice. Violet DeLuna.
So my name is Violet DeLuna and I teach history and world arts at Toll Middle School with Glendale Unified School District. I would like to thank the Armenian National Committee of America for this recognition today. I would also like to thank my colleague Angie Mathevosian for this recognition and Hori Manjikian for supporting this recognition. I would also like to thank Glendale Unified for making Armenian Genocide lessons a part of the curriculum and being the first in the nation to make April 24th a pupil-free day so that we could all recognize Armenian Genocide in the community. So I've been teaching lessons on Armenian Genocide for my 7th and 8th grade students for about 9 years. This next year will be my 10th year. Thank you. It's important because it's an issue that the students are clearly passionate about. We can all see that, especially in April on our campus. So in developing these lessons, I wanted to help them have meaningful conversations with each other about the crimes of genocide, human rights, and social justice. So every year in April, I designate a week to discuss what is genocide. And over the 9 years, the unit has evolved. It has included listening to survivor stories, identifying the characteristics of genocide, reading summaries about Armenian genocide as well as other genocides. Some of the special events and projects that I've planned have included a field trip to the Museum of Tolerance and art activities where the students create protest posters and we hang them in the room or they take them home for April 24th. When we were all on lockdown and teaching and learning in Zoom, I included a virtual field trip to the Holocaust Museum where we had a guest speaker who is a well-known Holocaust survivor, Joseph Alexander, who I'm sure many of you know about. So these lessons are rewarding to me because they allow the students to have informed discussions about a historical event that they do feel very passionate about. And having these conversations about genocide help the students to have a strength in their voices as they express their views about the crimes of genocide, human rights, and social justice. And lastly, these conversations are important to have so that we can all recognize when genocides are occurring, and together we can speak up to prevent these events from occurring again in our world, hopefully. So thank you again for this recognition.
Our second Armenian Genocide Education Award honoree. And Celeste is a dedicated and passionate educator. She teaches at Valley View Elementary School in the Glendale Unified School District. She meticulously, it's funny for me to talk about you, you're standing right here, but she meticulously tailors lessons that inspire and reward her students, and her professional career spans over 30 years of teaching and counseling the secondary and elementary levels. She believes that every human life has value and that every student deserves a good education. Having maintained her Asian and Latino cultures and language, she understands the importance of encouraging students to learn their own identity and their culture and their legacies. After participating in professional learning workshops, Celeste taught her students about the social, emotional aspects when it comes to the Armenian Genocide, and her students receive an age-appropriate curriculum in a supportive way that allows them to feel compassion and understanding of social injustices. Celeste, I hope I didn't take everything away from what you're going to say, but please, congratulations.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to be here today at the 6th Annual Armenian Genocide Education Award Luncheon, and I'm thrilled to be one of your recipients. Thank you to the Armenian National Committee of America for your hard work and dedication to fostering public awareness and recognizing the role of educators. We are a team working together to instill in children the universal lessons that come from historical events, such as the Armenian Genocide. It is critical to understand that all of us come from different backgrounds, but we are all the same in our desire to be seen, to be understood, valued, and connected to our communities. This is why the work of ANCA is so vital in memorializing the Armenian Genocide. We are called to action, to nurture a more loving and tolerant generation in which marginalized groups are not deprived of acceptance and community. My principal, Kelly Stubbs, has taught me to recognize that what happens on a larger scale in this world also happens on a smaller scale in the world of the classroom and the playground. At Valley View Elementary School, we foster the values of kindness. We model awareness and empathy for the children that we educate. In this way, even at the elementary level, students can see their important role in demonstrating respect for all people, thus powerfully creating a better world. These lessons I know. My father journeyed across the globe in search of safety and acceptance for our family. Over the span of 3 generations, he embarked on the quest for freedom in 3 different countries before settling permanently in the United States. I continue my father's legacy in his memory, and I pass this on to my beautiful daughters. I know that encouraging my students to research the Armenian legacy, to discover their own legacies, and to explore those of their peers will strengthen their understanding of our shared world, and that human rights are basic rights to be enjoyed by all. As I stand here today, along with other recipients, I see a better world, a more inclusive world. Our students are the future, and we must make every effort to create peace and connection among them. That is my goal, and this is what I teach. Individuals in organizations such as the Armenian National Committee of America are leading the way to a better future. I thank you, and I will never forget this honor. I'm humbled to receive the Armenian Genocide Education Award. Thank you again.
Our third Armenian Genocide Education Award honoree is Anna Quintanilla. Anna has devoted her 25-year career to teaching at various Title I schools in the LA Unified School District. And since 2017, she has been teaching at Mountain View Elementary School, where she currently teaches kindergarten. The warmth she has received from the Armenian community at Mountain View has motivated her to explore, to share, and to teach her students about the rich culture of the Armenian people, and she has implemented age-appropriate lessons in order to help her students understand Armenian symbols and cultures. So her students learn about the importance of, again, social and inclusivity, social justice, that is. She also helped to educate her parent community in the current crisis when it comes to Artsakh, so thank you for that. Please give a warm round of applause to Anna Quintanilla.
Good morning, and I actually thought it was going to be good morning, but good afternoon, everybody. I am not used to speaking in front of so many adults. I'm around 5-year-olds, so you'll have to excuse me. I'm a little nervous. Thank you so much for honoring me today. I am so humble and honored to stand in front of you to receive this recognition for teaching about a topic that is so dear to me. I have been building positive relationships with students for the last 25 years. And it goes back to me being in the Hollywood area and having one Armenian student every year to now being at Mountain View Elementary and having 75% of my class be Armenian. So it's been amazing. I have spent most of my career teaching TK, kindergarten, and first grade. At Mountain View, I have met so many students, families, and colleagues who have educated me and about the Armenian culture and the struggles they have faced since the Armenian Genocide. I am going to add something else. They've also taught me so much about food. I can now make so many different dishes that I truly enjoy and I post on my Instagram. So I've heard so many different things this morning and it really hits home. So, I'm so appreciative to the population that I work with. So I am fortunate to teach a very diverse group of children who see each other past the culture they identify with. In the past year, I've developed several lessons in which I learn with my students about symbols of the Armenian culture. I engaged students with a variety of pictures of symbols and guided them to connect to their significance in order to deepen their own understanding of the Armenian culture. I taught my students how to write their names using the Armenian alphabet. I do have to say, I had to Google some things and I also had to ask for help from our teachers. But it was so rewarding to see them trace their names. This is kindergarten. So it was amazing. My students learned that in Armenia mythology, the pomegranate symbolizes fertility and abundance. The class enthusiastically created art of pomegranates, which we displayed during open house. And my goodness, my parents were amazed that they were able to write their names in Armenian. We learned how to sing the Armenian alphabet, and while on that topic, discovered an incredible alphabet park that displayed all 39 Armenian letters for visitors to take photos with. The song was a hit, not only with my Armenian students, but my non-Armenian students as well. So my Armenian students felt at home when they recognized the alphabet song, and my non-Armenian students were happy to sing along to something that their peers deeply connected to. And I think that that is so important because all of us felt that joy. In addition to those lessons, I also created slides with links to sites the class could explore to expand their knowledge of Armenian symbols. Creating these lessons was very empowering for me because as an immigrant myself, I could relate to the need to have my culture to be recognized. I felt immense personal joy and a sense of accomplishment for being able to raise awareness and enrich students' understanding about the importance of the symbols that represent the Armenian community and culture. And I am so honored to be here this morning because, I do work with a lot of wonderful families, but to hear the stories this morning really brings, it really makes me think about the genocide and the struggles that the Armenian community has had to deal with. And I am so honored to work with such an amazing community. And my goal is going to continue to really empower not only my Armenian students, but the rest of the students. Because I think we do need to teach tolerance, and through tolerance, we can teach kindness. And remember, I do teach kindergarten, so my objective was really to have them learn about how symbols represent such a beautiful culture. So thank you so much.
Manuel Lopez is an assistant principal for Alesal High School in Salinas Unified High School District. He's an educator. He's been there for 30 years. As a social studies teacher, he created an innovative new lesson plan in which students are learning about the genocide and its denial through the story of Soghomon Tehlirian and the assassination of Talat Pasha. He has also developed a lesson highlighting the German involvement in the genocide and the connection when it comes to the Holocaust. Manuel has shared his lessons with his colleagues by providing full-day professional development workshops in his district and at the California Council for Social Studies. Recently, he did participate in Gen Ed Teacher Fellowship Program, which allowed him to actually travel to Armenia, spend 10 days there, learn about the culture and history. And then he was able to bring back those experiences and embed them into his training workshops. Unfortunately, he could not be with us this afternoon. However, he did send a video, so we are going to play a message from him.
Hello. My name is Manuel Lopez. I'm an educator at Alsa High School in Salinas. I am extremely humbled to be given this recognition from the Armenian National Committee of America by Talene Arsenian, Alice Petrosian. Thank you very much for this incredible recognition. None of this would be possible without my experience in Armenia, thanks in large part to the Genocide Education Project run by Roxanne Magsajian. I am very grateful for that opportunity because those 10 days in Armenia completely transformed who I am as an educator. Knowing that I was in the classroom for 30 years and never doing as much as I could have done to bring this important episode to light embarrasses me. However, in the time that I still have as an educator, I will do my very best to work with my colleagues, my community, and other people that want to learn about the Armenian Genocide in creating lessons that are practical so they can be that gateway for their students and learn about this tragic event. I'm already seeing some dividends here at my school in my community as I have trained several teachers about what I learned in Armenia. So thank you very much for this acknowledgement, and I will continue to do what I can to shed light about this event that some people want to shield. I apologize to the Armenian National Committee of Armenia and everybody else in Armenia because I should have done more. And I will continue to learn about what I did in Armenia. I'm just happy that I'm in a position to help. I wish I could be there with you and tell you more. And if you ever want me to go and speak to you, I will. But right now, I think I need to end this. I do not want to cry in front of the camera. So thank you very much. I appreciate this acknowledgement. Thank you.
That was so sweet. It's exciting to see the genuine, just the embrace of the culture, and also just the fact that at the end of the day, we're all people that want the same things in life: health, happiness, success, the safety of our family. When you take it all into consideration, many of you teach children. You teach children to get along and to be respectful of one another. Some of these lessons I feel as though adults need a refresher course on later on in life. When you think of it that way, it's unfortunate, but encouraging because we have people like you to remind us. So I would like to bring up Talene actually right now to the podium. She's going to introduce the Zaruhi Sera Chechjan Armenian Heritage Award honorees at this time. Oh, you're behind me.
Thank you, Araksya. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the amazing Zaruhi Sera Chechyan. Zaruhi Sera Chechyan was born in Mexico City in 1933 to Hampartsum and Osana Chechyan, both survivors of the Armenian Genocide. In 1935, her family immigrated to the United States, settling in Los Angeles, where she spent the remaining years of her life until her passing in 2021. Sarah earned her bachelor's degree in psychology from UCLA in 1956 and a year later earned her teaching credentials. She dedicated her life to public school education and spent nearly 40 years teaching for the Los Angeles Unified School District. Sarah had a vested interest in preserving Armenian history and culture, and she had a unique appreciation for cultural heritages from many diverse backgrounds. She dedicated her life to teaching students about many cultures, particularly creating curriculum and officially formalizing courses in Armenian history and culture. Her memory and lifelong mission to spread awareness of Armenian history and culture are carried on in the work of our honorees, past and present and future. Without further ado, I'd like to present our first Zaruhi Sarachichian Armenian Heritage awardee, Anita Kazarian. Anita is a math teacher at Burbank High School in the Burbank Unified School District, where she has taught for nearly 16 years. Anita has many English language learners in her classes, and she works to build a nurturing classroom environment in which all students of diverse backgrounds feel safe and included. Anita is the advisor for her school's Armenian Club, where she works to empower students to share and celebrate Armenian culture and history with their peers. Each year, the students of the Burbank High School Armenian Club organize an Armenian Culture and History Assembly under Anita's leadership and support, in order to allow the school community to garner an understanding and appreciation of the Armenian community. Anita has also worked to help the school community understand the current crisis in Artsakh and has supported the social-emotional needs of her students and their families. Ms. Anita Kazarian, it is my honor to present to you the Zaruhi Sarachichian Armenian Heritage Award.
All right, hello. I'm Anita Kazarian. I'm a mathematics teacher at Burbank High School, and I advise the Armenian Club. I would like to begin by thanking my dear colleague Diana Basta for the nomination, and thank you ANCA Education Committee for this honor. I'm deeply honored to receive this award. Growing up in an Armenian household, preserving our language, history, and heritage has always been important. I've always felt like it's my responsibility to raise awareness about the Armenian Genocide and honor the memory of those who perished and those who survived the unimaginable. I believe that it's important to educate future generations about the dangers of hatred and discrimination and the importance of standing up against it so that future atrocities never occur again. In 2006, the first Armenian club in Burbank High's history was established by a few passionate students with the help of Mr. Paul Krikorian and school board members. I was excited to have been asked to advise the club. I've always had a strong love and connection to my homeland, and I've always been passionate about helping others. Being an advisor for the Armenian Club has given me the opportunity to give back to the Armenian community and make a positive impact. It has also allowed me to inspire students to hold on to their Armenian heritage, identity, and culture while embracing our new home in the United States. The Armenian Club's mission is to educate both Armenians and non-Armenians in our school about the history and culture of Armenians and to raise awareness about the Armenian Genocide. Sadly, existential threats against Armenians of Artsakh persist today, and we are working on raising awareness for that as well. Throughout the years, the Armenian Club has organized silent protests, held school assemblies to educate students and staff about the culture and to raise awareness about the Armenian Genocide. And we're currently organizing another assembly in April with guest speaker Tigran Khodanyan, who will be speaking about the genocide, the aftermath, and current issues in Artsakh. Our club has also participated in various fundraising activities. One such activity was the Gavar Special School Pen Pal and Donation Project, where we partnered with the U.S. Peace Corps workers and community businesses to raise over $3,000 to help build a roof over the school and even exchange letters with the children. Our students have also volunteered for the Armenian Telethon and for Armenian representatives with their campaigns. I want our students to know that Armenians are strong and resilient. Despite countless hardships our people have faced, we've managed to overcome these challenges and to preserve our heritage and identity. As an educator, I believe that we all have a responsibility to help our students become culturally proficient in our multicultural schools. This is why I encourage my students to be actively involved and to work with each other in order to make our school, our community, and our society a better and more compassionate place. Thank you again. I am grateful for this recognition. Thank you.
Our next Zaruhi Sarachicyan honoree is Talar Koseyan. Talar is a Title I teacher specialist at Sunland Elementary School in the Los Angeles Unified School District. During her years as a classroom teacher, Talar has embedded age-appropriate Armenian genocide lessons in her curriculum to teach her students about tolerance and inclusivity. As a special resource, Talar has used a book she authored called Mom and Dad, Why Do I Need to Know About My Armenian Heritage? To teach her students empathy by sharing her own personal stories and stories of the survival of her grandparents from the Armenian Genocide. Talat has shared her lessons with educators and students in other school districts as well as her own. She uses the stories of survival of her grandparents to make connections with students and help them understand Armenian culture and history. Like many of us, Talat has kept her promise to her grandmother to never forget what happened to the Armenian people by continuing to share her grandparents' overwhelming persistence to survive and to thrive. Ms. Talat Keyosa.
Good afternoon, esteemed guests. It's an absolute pleasure to be among such incredible people. Thank you, ANCA, for this amazing honor. Nishta's spirit and AYF's mission cultivated activism in my heart from a very young age. AYF was the catalyst that instilled the loving soul of my homeland and people. I was born in Aleppo, Syria, and moved to Philadelphia when I was 7. Being raised in Philadelphia, the desire to remain Armenian inspired me to continue learning as well as to share my heritage. When I moved to Los Angeles in 1997, I began my career in education. I've been a teacher for a private Armenian school and LAUSD for the past 25 years. Growing up in Philadelphia, I stood out because I had a weird name. No one knew where Armenia was. They didn't know who Armenians were. I made it my mission to always tell people that I was Armenian and to familiarize them with all things Armenian, especially the genocide. My grandmother, Elmon Piligyan Muradian, was a survivor, as were my other grandparents. When I was leaving Syria, she told me that it was my duty never to forget those who perished and to honor those who survived. At that time, I had no idea what she was talking about. Years later, the stories became more relevant when I would go back and visit her in Aleppo. In 2008, I wrote, Mom and Dad, why do I need to know my Armenian heritage? I didn't want another Armenian child to feel that they didn't have a voice and that they weren't represented. I also wanted to include Armenian history, which is immense, in a very short and concise way. I included actual events in the book and wrote it from a child's perspective. The book was so personal to me that I named the main characters after my 2 boys, Hagop and Avo. I was honored when Araksya read the book via YouTube, and it's been used as a resource to teachers throughout the country. Speaking about the Armenian genocide is never an easy thing. Reading the book in classrooms brings back the stories my dear grandmother told me. I retell what happened to her and her family when she became an orphan at the age of 10. I mentioned the gold coins that her only surviving aunt sewed inside her dress and how my cousins and I each have one of those coins. In today's world of intolerance, an educator must teach compassion and empathy. We have an obligation and a duty to ensure that the Armenian genocide and atrocities like that never happen again. A huge thanks to Mrs. Araksya Karapetyan for nominating me. Thank you, ANCA. I couldn't be where I am today without my dear parents and my precious sons. I am very humbled and honored to be among such dedicated individuals. Thank you.
Our last Zaruhi Sarachicyan honoree today is Talin Satamyan. Talin is a third-grade French dual-language immersion teacher at Benjamin Franklin Elementary School in the Glendale Unified School District, where she has worked for the past 8 years. As an educator, Talin has worked tirelessly to incorporate Armenian culture, dance, and history in her classroom instruction and within the entire Franklin Elementary School community, all the while teaching her students in French. Thanks to Talin, her school community regularly celebrates Armenian traditions, holidays, and practices. Additionally, Talin shares awareness of the tragedies that have occurred in Armenian history, including the most recent crisis in Artsakh. Talin organized a fundraiser for the victims of the Artsakh attacks by holding an online auction of beautiful graphics, some created by her students. Talin's passion and compassion are evident in all that she does to ensure she meets the needs of her diverse students, while she continually celebrates her cultural heritage with her school community. Talin?
Hello. I'm very grateful to the Armenian National Committee, Western Region's Education Committee for honoring me. I'm also very thankful to Simona Sardella, my colleague at Franklin Elementary School in Glendale, for nominating me. My former principal, Sherry Kelly, and Franklin's former PTA president, Danny Kim, were instrumental in what is transpiring in my life today. And of course, the memory of my patriotic father is always with me today. As educators, we have a special role in making knowledge and resources available to our students so they can build their understanding of not only academic content, but also of themselves and the world. Unfortunately, different parts of the world are either experiencing or can potentially experience violence, including ours right here. No one's immune to societal transformations and political changes in governments which can unexpectedly turn our world upside down. This is why I pay attention to violence that may seem distant and unrelated to us, distance in time or place or both. However, learning about violence elsewhere may help us prevent violence in our own society. Raising awareness of the horrendous human and cultural toll of the Armenian Genocide and the ongoing horrific ethnic cleansing and blockade of Artsakh in its 104th day today can be a catalyst to build connections and allyships dedicated to the prevention of mass violence. As an educator, my approach to a violence-free world is celebrating diversity, giving voice to silenced communities, instilling respect and tolerance for difference, and encouraging critical thinking. This kind of education can undercut hatred and racism, which are the drivers of mass violence. As a French immersion teacher in a third-grade classroom, I celebrate diversity and regularly include Armenian culture, among others, as part of the celebration, partly because I have every year 2 or 3 Armenian students in my class and wish to honor and include their culture, and partly because of historically close French-Armenian ties. Through Armenia and other Francophone countries, I'm able to showcase the diversity of the French world. As a 21st century teacher, I'm also responsible for helping form global citizens who not only celebrate diversity, but also actively care about the world. My students and my school community have learned about the humanitarian challenges facing the Armenian world today and have taken action. We raised funds for Artsakh's humanitarian needs in 2020. Last year, my students learned and then taught the Armenian dance Tamzara. By dancing and stomping their feet, they symbolically and in a child-friendly manner stopped evil in the world from rising from the depth of the earth, much as our ancestors believed. In short, I take every possible opportunity to teach the value of diversity and of difference, and have no difficulty connecting the Armenian world to the wider world. Yet I can't tell you how many times I've been asked by Armenians, is it okay to teach an Armenian dance? As if I'm breaking work rules or endangering my career. As Armenians, we often engage in self-censorship and diminish our role in the larger society. These traits must be the legacy of centuries of subjugation and persecution. They are obstacles to our full participation in the fight against racism and mass violence in our immediate environment and in the world. As an added bonus, these interactions also keep the Armenian world forever vibrant, young, and relevant. Thank you.
Congratulations to all three of our Zadohi Sarachician Armenian Heritage Award honorees. Zadohi would be very proud of all three of you. I would like to now invite Araksya back to the podium.
Thank you to all. And Talar, by the way, the book that we did, that you wrote, that I read on YouTube, for some reason, when I play it, my kids actually pay attention, but when I read it, they don't. So it was very effective, and that book speaks to so many of us, the struggle of living in a different country, embracing who you are as an American, yet trying to hold on to your Armenian roots and identity. It's the perfect book for so many families. So if you haven't had a chance to read that book, I encourage all of you to do so. All right, yes, this next honoree is special on many levels. Christina Pascucci, my new colleague and friend, my South Bayer. We live near one another and have yet to actually see each other outside of the station. It will happen one day soon. So this award, come on up. Even though you make me look short because you're a supermodel. This is Christina. So the next award is the Ambassador Henry Morgenthau Senior Courage Award, which is presented to an individual who actually embodies strength, courage, determination as Ambassador Morgenthau and his efforts to take a stand against the injustices committed by the Young Turks government. This award is important to us, and it's being offered to Christina this year because while she was in Armenia, she actually went to Artsakh. Christina traveled to the very front line. She actually went and visited many cities like Jermuk, and she spoke to families, people who've been impacted by the war there, and they're impacted even to this day. What's interesting is, in September, Christina, prior to joining us at Fox, did a little adventure where she went all over the world, and she chose to go to Armenia. And she sent me a message and said, I'm going to Armenia. Can you hook me up with a translator? Can you recommend a place for me to stay? And I was so excited. I'm like, yes, of course, absolutely. I just regret I'm not there to do it myself. So I connected her with some people, and then she said she had plans to go to some of these border towns and to actually come to understand what was actually happening. She had that interest to go there herself, which was just so admirable and so amazing. The day she was, which city were you in when there was? You were in Jermuk, okay. So the day there was actual fighting there, or shots had been fired, we were communicating, and we had plans to do a Zoom together so I could do an interview and then put a little something together for the newscast. And it was a way to introduce Christina to the Fox 11 audience. And I remember how stressed she was, and there was so much going on because you were worried that some of the soldiers you'd been able to speak with that day, whose identity you were going to conceal for their safety, you were worried that some of them had been injured. And I remember just the emotions you were feeling, and it was a very stressful evening, but you made the time to actually speak with me that night. We put that story on the air, and then when she came back and she joined us at Fox 11, she also had so much material. She put some pieces together. I hope you've seen it. I've shared it. They're on our website. They're on her social media. Christina is the type of journalist that I think when someone is looking into the field of journalism, this is the kind of person you want to be like. Someone who's curious about the world, who wants to learn about people, who just has this hunger and passion to tell people stories. She is in it for the right reasons, and many people who come into this industry, especially in this day and age, are in it for the wrong reasons. But Christina really embodies everything that is respectable about journalism. It's an honor to work with you now and to know you, and like I said, we will get together soon. So what's also important, and also such a kind of ties it all in is the fact that Christina talks about the fact that she learned about the Armenian Genocide for the very first time from her Spanish teacher at Calabasas High School, which is really amazing, right? Dr. or Miss Gregorian. Unfortunately, she was not able to be here today. We were looking forward to connecting the two of you, but this brings it all in. This was one teacher who spoke of the genocide. It stayed with her. She's always been curious about it, and many years later, she decided to go to Armenia to actually be there in person. So, Christina, thank you for your passion. Thank you for embracing this community. We are happy to have you and excited as a non-Armenian that you've taken an interest in our cause.
Thank you. I am deeply touched by this award and what it represents. Los Angeles, as we know, is a melting pot of such vibrant culture, and something I've noticed over the years reporting on the streets of LA for 15 years now is the Armenia diaspora here has really stood out to me. How fiercely Armenian Americans celebrate their family and their culture and their history. And being here at an event like this, you understand why that is, because they know what is at stake. So this being a Courage Award, I want to talk more about that. Yes, courage is what ultimately led me to Armenia, to Jermuk, as there was gunfire going off. Courage is what led me to Sot, where a man took me inside of his bombed out home. It still makes me emotional thinking about just that scene, where shelling had fallen feet away from where he slept. And courage is what led me to reporting on the blockade impacting the Republic of Artsakh that has now passed 100 days. But it wasn't my courage. It was the courage of the Armenian people. And as Araksya referenced, it was the courage of Dr. Gregorian, my high school Spanish teacher, who was so brave to talk about the Armenian Genocide and what happened. And as you might imagine, it was likely not in the Spanish-speaking curriculum to learn about the Armenian Genocide, but she made a point to teach us. And it wasn't just the content of what she said that really sticks with me, it was how she said it, the passion, the urgency, just the heart with which she communicated the importance of this historical event, that 20 years later, it sticks with me. And that is the impact that our educators have. I think we should clap for them. So thank you to our educators. Thank you to this amazing organization for having me. And to Dr. Gregorian, and also, of course, to the Armenian people. This award is for you. Thank you.
I know, she's very tall. That's her husband right there, by the way, Austin. Very supportive. It's pretty amazing. I remember I asked you, I said, how does it feel about you frolicking all over the world by yourself? It's pretty, to have someone like that so supportive is amazing. I know he joined you on your journey later, but still, thank you for being here, both of you. You know what? I have to add that in order for someone like Christina to do what she does, she has to have someone like him support her. And it's true about what they say about, along the lines of every strong man, there's a strong woman, and vice versa as well. Like it works together. And my husband's not here. Usually he's at every event. Nora knows he's everywhere. But he's not here tonight, but I'm fortunate enough to work today. I'm fortunate enough to also have someone like that in my corner, which allows me to do all the things I'm able to do. It's tough. So yes, for the spouses, the supportive spouses in all of our lives. I would like to invite ANCA Western Region Education Committee Secretary Laura Garbudyan to the stage. She's going to introduce the Richard J. Hovhannisyan Armenian Genocide Higher Education Award honorees at this time.
Before I introduce our next honoree, I would like to read a special message sent to us by Dr. Richard Hovhannisyan, who regretfully cannot be here with us today. Dear ANCA Western Region Education Committee and friends, I am very pleased that the in-person Genocide Education Program and Awards are being resumed today. Everything shut down about a week following the last memorable luncheon in 2020. And our world changed drastically, with difficult to imagine challenges, both personally and for our Armenian worlds collectively. I'm gratified that there are those who refuse to lose their purposeful spirit and commitment and have had the willpower to reorganize and go forward. The recognition of educators who have continued to enlighten and advocated during these trying times is most commendable. Congratulations to all of the recipients. With all good wishes, Richard Hovhannisyan. Now I would like to introduce our next honoree, who is the recipient of the Richard G. Hovhannisyan Armenian Genocide Higher Education Award, Dr. Khachi Mouradian. Dr. Mouradian is a longtime advocate of the Armenian cause and human rights issues around the world. He currently serves as the Armenian and Georgian Area Specialist in the African and Middle Eastern Division at the Library of Congress and is a lecturer in Middle Eastern, South Asian, and African Studies at Columbia University. He also serves as co-principal investigator with Professor Paul Boghossian of the Project on Armenian Genocide Denial at the Global Institute for Advanced Study at New York University. Dr. Mouradian has led countless Armenian and non-Armenian human rights initiatives. In the little spare time he has, Dr. Mouradian has also led many pilgrimages to the historic lands of Western Armenia, which are now part of Eastern Turkey, in order to conduct research, document the continued cultural genocide occurring, establish and maintain relationships with hidden Armenians, and connect Armenian genocide descendants to their ancestral lands. I am one of those descendants who has had the privilege of traveling with Dr. Mouradian to my great-grandparents' village, where they were forced from during the genocide. And as you can imagine, it was one of the most impactful experiences of my life. I know there are several of you here today that have also traveled to Western Armenia with Dr. Mouradian and feel the same way, thanks to his selfless leadership and dedication to historical truth, justice, and reparations. In addition, Dr. Mouradian is also the author of a book, The Resistance Network, The Armenian Genocide and Humanitarianism in Ottoman Syria, 1915 through 1918, published by Michigan State University Press in 2021, and receiving the Syrian Studies Association Honorable Mention 2021 and the 2022 Aronian Book Prize for Excellence in Armenian Studies. At a time when the Armenian nation is in desperate need for intellectuals who create legal, theoretical, political, and philosophical frameworks, Dr. Mouradian is one of a handful who can live up to the billing of an intellectual and help our nation in shaping the accurate framework for our collective future. Khachi, it is my honor to present you with the Richard G. Hovhannisyan Armenian Genocide Higher Education Award.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank the ANCA Western Region Education Committee for this award, and it's all the more meaningful that Laura introduced me here this afternoon. Where should I start? I should start with educators as well. I can trace my life from my childhood all the way to today through the experiences, the lessons, and the inspiration that I have received from my teachers. Starting from Lebanon during the Civil War, where I spent my entire childhood, all the way into my studies with my PhD and later. Perhaps it's no exaggeration to say that many of what I have tried to, at my best as a professor, I am channeling my teachers and educators and mentors. I can almost feel myself echoing their words. I can feel how I'm sort of channeling them in my work, in my teaching, again, at my best. Ultimately, when we think about genocide education, it's about teaching one of the Armenian genocide education in particular. It's about teaching one of the most horrific crimes of the 20th century. But ultimately, for me, genocide education is so much more. When I started working during my PhD work, when I started working on the Armenian genocide, I wanted to document what happened in the darkest corner of the Ottoman Empire during World War I. What many of us Armenians here know as Der Zor, what in scholarship and in journalism is known as, the darkest corner of the Armenian genocide, the grave site of most of the Armenians who perished, and in that sense, such a central place. So my initial journey was one of trying to document the darkest corner, and therefore my expectation was that this was going to be a painful journey. This was going to be about writing about death, destruction, massacre in that corner of the world, which is today in modern-day Syria. But one of the phenomenal things that happened with that project is that as I learned more about that region, as I learned more about the way Armenians organized in that region, those survivors who were in terrible condition arriving in Syria, the way they formed this underground resistance network, tried to save as many lives as possible, it essentially transformed this book that I was imagining to be extremely dark into a book that was dark, but at the same time it highlighted and emphasized the agency of the Armenians, their ability to organize and fight back and push back. So genocide education is also about education on resilience. It's also about education on resistance. And in that sense, I think the best we can do as educators, when we are talking about the darkest moments of human history, is to also be mindful of the fact that in those darkest moments, in those darkest corners, people are not just passively, like sheep, as is often said, going for their deaths. They're standing up and they're doing their utmost and their best to survive and help others survive. And this is perhaps, this experience was the most transformative moment of my life. Just looking at a very dark thing and seeing hope, seeing resilience, and then ultimately, as I said, the book ended up being titled The Resistance Network, even though I would not have imagined that is the title that I would give it when I embarked on this project. Now, more than 100 years after the Armenian Genocide, today, with the war on Armenia and Artsakh, and its aftermath, and the horrors that are being committed on a daily basis in the region, it is important to think about one, perhaps, critical element of what I just said about the resistance network and the Armenian Genocide. More than 100 years ago, the Armenian nation was at a precipice. You had destruction, you had total dispossession of the Armenian nation, You had 1.5 million Armenians killed, tremendous destruction of culture and heritage that was built over millennia. And ultimately, despite those extreme circumstances, which is unquestionably the worst moment of modern Armenian history, the Armenian nation was able to rebuild. The Armenian nation was able to create a new Armenia, a Republic of Armenia, and the Armenian survivors ended up building communities around the world. And we are here standing in one of the most vibrant communities today. And I know often we may feel depressed with what is going on today in Armenia and against Armenia. I know often we may feel the challenge and the difficulty and we do not see a path forward. But in times like that, I want perhaps more than anything else to share with you the fact that as a historian, more than 100 years ago, knowing so well what the Armenian people went through and pushed against with their resilience and their resistance, is to say that the best thing we can do to ourselves, our communities, and our nation is to think if they could do it back then, we can do it today. Thank you very much.
I would now like to invite ANCA Western Region Education Committee Vice Chair Seda Antekalyan to the stage to introduce the Armenian Genocide Education Legacy Award honoree.
In the basic definition of the word, legacy means something transmitted by or received from an ancestor or predecessor from the past. The honoree of the Armenian Genocide Education Legacy Award not only is an individual who carries the memory of the past, but they themselves have also built a legacy in their own right and are a living legend. This year, we are delighted to recognize Dr. Stepan Asturian, who is highly deserving of this recognition. I'd like to now read a few remarks from some of the scholars we have in the room today with us about the impact that Dr. Asturian has had on them and on academia. Professor Asturian, whom I first met at a conference more than a decade ago, but where work I am familiar with long before, remains an inspiration and stands out as a role model. We honor ourselves and our history when we honor a person like Professor Asturian, Dr. Khachi Muradian. I congratulate my friend and colleague Stepan Asturian for this very much deserved award. His many years of research, writing, and teaching have made a very important contribution to the understanding of the genocide and Armenian history in general. Dr. Levon Marashlian. I have known Professor Stepan Asturian for a long time when we were both students at UCLA, and I have always admired his determination and perseverance. From a hardworking and overachieving student, he grew to become the pillar of the Armenian Studies program at UC Berkeley and the highly respected scholar of Armenian history. And now, this very deserving award. May this award lead him toward his future endeavors, especially in Armenia, and much needed improvement in genocide scholarship. Dr. Rubina Perumian. Until his retirement in July 2022, Dr. Stepan Asturian served as the William Saroyan Director of the Armenian Studies program at the University of California, Berkeley for over 20 years. As its founder, he worked tirelessly to set the foundation of a full-fledged quality academic program focused on contemporary Armenian history, politics, language, and culture at one of the most renowned universities in the world. Through this role, and in his capacity as an associate adjunct professor in Armenian and Caucasian history in the Department of History, Dr. Asturian provided thoughtful and meaningful instruction to university students on topics in history, comparative genocides, and diaspora studies, in addition to the Armenian language, Armenian literature, and culture. I know this firsthand as I was his student in 2016 during the Genocide and Human Rights program presented by the Zorian Institute in Toronto. Throughout his career, Dr. Asturian has published a number of articles about the origins and historiography of the Armenian Genocide, Armenian, Ottoman, and Azerbaijani history and politics, and current issues relating to Armenians in the homeland and the diaspora. He has engaged in countless collaborations with scholars in the field and has contributed to filling a gap in academic scholarship. His work has brought the Armenian story to light and serves as a credible source for future historiography. On September 27, 2020, the government of Azerbaijan, backed by Turkey, dramatically escalated the conflict with Armenians in the Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh. The Armenian community worldwide was devastated, yet activated to do whatever possible to raise funds, spread awareness, and ensure recognition of these crimes. Dr. Asturian did not hesitate to join this effort. As part of the Zoravik activist collective started by Dr. Lisa Gulaserian, Dr. Asturian worked with her and provided weekly updates on the volatile situation in Artsakh between October 2020 and November 2020. During this time, he also participated in various conversations and panels to bring awareness to the questionable approach of the international media's coverage of the war. Without a doubt, Dr. Asturian has established a foundation that will continue to grow, thrive, and inspire a countless amount of young scholars worldwide who will carry the legacy he has established. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Stepan Asturian.
Well, very nice words, thank you. First, I would like to thank the Armenian National Committee of America, Western Region's Education Committee, for selecting me to receive this Armenian Genocide Education Legacy Award. I don't know if I deserve it, but I certainly appreciate it, and I'm honored to join the very select group of distinguished former recipients of this award. I am also happy to see here old friends and dedicated individuals with whom I worked in the past, for instance as a member of the first and second, then called Usum Nagan Chorut, of Board of Regents, and that includes Dr. Alice Petrosian. I don't know if you'll agree with me, but it seems that all things have kind of like a beginning. So does my interest in the Armenian Genocide. And this short talk is devoted to that beginning. You see, historians can write about genocide as a phenomenon, its causes, its stages, its organization, its main actors, and so on. But they will never be able to write about the specific experience of its victims, because the human reality of a genocide exceeds its explanation. And Dr. Mouradian did a remarkable job trying to reach that depth of depravity. You know, in the Syrian deserts, by the way, my paternal grandfather, I found out a few years ago, was in the death camp of Meskene. So I would like to introduce you to three human beings, ghosts today, that I cannot forget. All three were, so to speak, lucky, really lucky. They survived the Armenian Genocide. First comes the old woman I used to call Tata Kohar or Auntie Kohar. We weren't related. And her husband Suren. They were the only close acquaintances of my stepfather and step-grandmother. My mother had newly remarried and I must have been around 11-year-old at that point. One day while visiting us, Tata Kohar said, "Yegur-beras, kezi pamaguzem tsemel. Come, my boy, I want to show you something." And she opened the upper back of her dress to reveal a deep scar, perhaps 10, 12, 13 inches long. She had been stabbed when she was 5 and somehow survived. Tata Kohar suffered from psychosis, more precisely delusions of persecution, hearing voices, imagining that the neighbors were persecuting her on purpose. Then came my real uncle, Tonton Yervant, the husband of my mother's older sister. A kind, helpful, almost childlike man. He grew up as an orphan because both of his parents had been butchered to death in front of him during the Adana massacre of 1909. He probably suffered from some kind of bipolar disorder, but then I am not a psychiatrist. During his manic episodes, he would go on irrational buying sprees, he'd get agitated, that cost him a lot, by the way. And my spouse, who is here, was witness to his filling a glass of water for my daughter Nanar, who is also here, then a small toddler. He filled and emptied it. He filled and emptied it 13, 14, 15 times, perhaps to make sure that the water and the glass were clean. By the way, my first article dealing with the Armenian Genocide in 1990 was dedicated to these two persons. And then came my step-grandmother, Meme Manu, we used to call her. We shared a living room, a small living room. I would sleep on a folding bed. During the day it would be folded. She was from Çankırı and had witnessed all the Armenian intellectuals being deported and walked through Çankırı. She married at 14, had 2 boys by the age of 16 and a half, and then her husband had been conscripted by the time the second boy was born. That was the end of her normal youthful life as a woman. She survived with the 2 infants, building ovens in Bulgaria along the way to her miserable refugee life in Marseille. Soft-spoken, always smiling mildly when seeing me, never complaining despite her physical conditions. And then there was that silence about the past, despite all the time we would spend together in that room. And it was the silence of the dead. I will never forget her looking at me from the window of my parents' bedroom while I was taking a taxi to go to Nice airport on my way back to LA. She knew this was the last time, and I think I did too. The presence of one past was ending. When I think of these countless witnesses of the crime, the book title of one of the pioneers of genocide studies, Dr. Leo Cooper, comes to my mind. The Pity of It All. None of the works I have read, seminars I have taught on comparative genocides, and academic lectures I have given about the Armenian genocide will offer you a glimpse, just a glimpse, into the genocidal abyss, like the sad fate of these 3 lucky human beings. Today, Armenians, not unlike victims of other genocides, are facing a problem. I probably belong to the last age group to have grown up with these ghosts from the past. The new generation, however, is cut from them. They will never see Tonton Suren's emaciated face and really dark brown skin, perhaps baked by the sun of the Syrian desert. And they will not live with the memory of their gaze. This is where educators, especially pre-university educators, play a crucial role. it is incumbent upon them to teach where racist, exterminatory, and imperialistic ideologies lead. That is mass death. And beyond explaining genocide as a phenomenon, I hope they can have at their disposal appropriate materials to give their students a sense of what I will call the human factor, the human dimension, how genocides were experienced at an individual level. For sure, we all owe a debt of gratitude to the outstanding teachers being honored here today. We also owe an immense debt of gratitude to those who led the foundation for Armenian genocide studies and or fought denial at a time when these appeared hopeless. I am talking about the generation of the 50s, 60s, and mine, 80s, 90s, when denial was all over the place and we were laughed at when we attended conferences. We should first and foremost remember somebody who has been essentially forgotten but is the real foundation, and he needs to be commemorated one day, Father Grigor Grigorian. We need obviously to remember Vahakan Hovhannisyan, Richard Hovhannisyan, and some of his students, Dr. Rubina Pirumyan, Levon Marashyan, I think he is here, Vakram Shemmasyan, I don't know if he is here, and then some key non-Armenians, Israel Charlie, Leo Cooper, Ellen Fine, who supported us at a time when we were being despised. At the beginning of my talk, we agreed, even though I actually didn't ask for your opinions, that all things have a beginning. But do all things have an end? For instance, the Armenian Genocide. I leave you with this question at a time when genocide denial is still flourishing in Turkey and genocidal rhetoric proliferating in Azerbaijan. A country where criminals and war crimes are extolled and kids are brainwashed in schools into hating Armenians. This is a country where a glorious officer, Ramil Safarov, who courageously, during a NATO program in Hungary in 2004, beheaded Lieutenant Gurgen Markarian while the latter was asleep. Now I believe that's an act of courage, and this guy is celebrated today as an Azerbaijani hero. Literally celebrated. I read Azerbaijan. I know what I am talking about. Finally, the fight against genocide and genocide denial should obviously be based on genocide studies, especially comparative genocide studies, but also education and advocacy. This is where obviously the Armenian National Committee of America and its Western Regions Education Committee has been doing more than its fair share with the latter two fields, advocacy and education. Last paragraph, remember, one cannot be defeated easily unless one is already mentally defeated. This applies to competition, this applies to elite soldiers, to a good fight. Your presence here is not just to honor some educators, including myself. We are small links in the long chain leading to truth and justice. Each one of us does his, her part, and we complement one another. There is a beautiful song by François Hardy, which starts with the word "On est bien peu de choses." A lifetime comes and a lifetime goes. Your presence here actually is not just a tribute to the honorees today, it is proof that you continue honoring the ghosts I mentioned earlier on. Thank you.
I'm going to invite Alice Petrosian to come and deliver the closing remarks, and as I do so, I'll take this opportunity to say thank you for having me here. Also for those amazing, powerful words, very articulate and really very moving to hear. Oftentimes I find myself, when I think of our story, becoming very sad and going into a very dark place. I think it's easy to do that even in the current situation, and I find myself in darkness, and it is then that I have to remind myself that I have to pull out of that darkness to see the light and to be reminded of our resilience. This is why we're still here. The saying goes, you can find an Armenian in any corner of the world, in any country, you will find at least one. It's a story of our past. That is why you will find an Armenian anywhere in the world, because they fled the genocide to be there. But now we are there, and this is our reality. And so it is our job to continue to tell our story and to continue to fight the fight and to remember where we come from and who we are and be proud of that. Thank you.
You have to agree with me. I'm not giving you a choice. Araksya is truly impressive, amazing, wonderful. A mother of two with a supportive husband, and here she is on her weekend, giving freely of her time. I'd like to invite the Education Committee all up, and as they come up, we'd like to thank Araksya. We're not a wealthy group, as you will soon know. I mean, you can't be wealthy charging what we did for... By the way, did you have enough food today? In case you didn't, stay tuned, we can bring more. Seriously, to have given up her weekend, we want to thank her from our heart with gifts from people like our esteemed authors and Armenian champagne and some of the other things. But Araksya, John, no, it goes deeper than the basket. It goes through our hearts to you. We love you. Everybody come up here, all the committee, put Araksya in the middle while I read my closing. Just a moment to share with you one more important project. We have a serious crisis, and I'm not just talking about Artsakh. How many of you know there's a teacher shortage, Armenian teacher shortage here in the U.S.? Raise your hand if you're aware of our teacher shortage. It is so serious that LA Unified is thinking about closing something we fought dearly for, one of our dual language Armenian programs, because we cannot find teachers. I want to thank Lucy Martirosyan for her role in this. She's picked up this project, but Lucy has an amazing partner. Will the CSUN group please raise their hand? The Armenian Studies program and the CSUN group right there. Thank you, California State University at Northridge, for picking up this crisis and working with us. LA Unified also. Scott, you're the representative right now here, but your staff in the HR department is willing to work with anyone who is seriously considering teaching in an Armenian dual language program. So whoever you know, let's talk about the value of teaching. I know it no longer is the profession it was in my grandparents' era, but it is still an extremely valuable profession. We need your help. How does one even begin to close this rewarding afternoon? Congratulations, but more so, thank you to today's awardees, our past awardees, and those who were nominators. We will start taking nominations again in 6 months, so be on the lookout for those who care and for those who teach. May you all know as people that our nation is indebted to you just as much as this committee is. An event such as this takes a few great team members working hard together, but it also takes two outstanding leaders. The chair, Talin Arsenia, will you step forward? Seda Antakelian, will you please step forward? Ladies and gentlemen, these women have not slept for the last 2 weeks. How many of you put on a wedding? You know what that takes? Imagine doing it with this small group and trying to do the seating. With that, I would also like to say this is our first time back after the pandemic, and you, our attendees, made this a sold-out success. So will you just look around your table and say thank you for taking time to be with us? The ANCA board, how can I thank you enough? We ask you not to leave because we're going to be taking pictures with you, the awardees, and the committee at the end of this program. You have been the backbone, and you have not only supported us for today, but you have supported us in all of our work. A truly great, dedicated group of leaders making our community stronger. Thank you, Madam Chair Nora Hovsepian and your board. Now I would like to suggest something. If you lift your plates, there's a number under it. That number coincides, if you have a number under it, there's 6, coincides with the numbers in the centerpiece. That is what you have won. If you have 1, look for 1 in the centerpiece, and that is what you have won. I want to thank all those who donated. Arpi Krikorian, those bags were amazing. All our authors, Kay Muradian, Laura Kaputian, Katya, all of you, thank you so much. You have won this. As you leave, remember, we'll be back a year from now in a bigger and better setting. So we expect to be sold out even earlier. Thank you again to our 2 amazing leaders.